نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون. وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين. أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون. واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون. Respectful honorable friends, continuing with the verses of Surah Yaseen. And part of Surah Yaseen was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned some of His qudrat. And then in between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the verses we had done were pertaining to the hereafter. Again here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions a couple more of His powers, His qudrat. And one which is pertaining to mankind, and something which Allah Ta'ala mentions this so that we take heed from it. Allah Ta'ala says that وَمَن نُعَمِّرْهُ نُنَكِّسْهُ فِي الْخَلْقِ أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ. That he whom we advance in age, نُعَمِّرُكُمْ, meaning to advance in age, نُنَكِّسْهُ, we diminish in structure. أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ, do they not understand? This is another great qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah ta'ala mentions that هو الذي خلقكم من ضعف ثم خلق من بعد ضعف قوة ومن بعد قوة شيبة. That how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created insan from du'a, from weakness. And from weakness Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes insan to quwwah, and after quwwah comes weakness again. And that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned here. That وَمَن نُعَمِّرْهُ نُنَكِسْهُ فِي الْخَلْقِ. That whoever we advance in age, meaning that those who we make old, we diminish in structure. This is the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here وَمَن نُعَمِّرْهُ indicates also towards that this aging of insan is something which continues, and it is a constant qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That insan is always dependent upon this qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala has created insan from what? From absolute nothing. And from that few drops of semen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps and constructs insan as a baby, as a child, within the womb of the mother. So from that time onwards, all from that entire process, وَمَن نُعَمِّرْكُمْ is continuing. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not created insan once, and that's it, their creation is done now. But from that moment all the way it continues throughout. And throughout this process, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has an entire system in place which takes care of this creation of mankind. That the child then in the womb of the mother develops over the stages. There is no machines in the stomach, there is no engineers in the stomach that are engineering, manufacturing, producing, creating, carving, constructing. This child that is there, which is forming in the stomach, in the womb of the mother, it is all happening. وَمَن نُعْمِرْهُ. And when the child comes in this world, the child which is what? Absolute weakling. And a weak child is in need of its parents. So the parents are there, and if not, then the mother. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created such means that there is a factory, a food factory within the mother. Otherwise, a child that is born in a poor home, where there is poverty, then that child would have no food at all. If immediately the mother has to look for food, physical food to feed the child, and the mother herself, there's no food for herself, where is she going to get food for the child? The child will not last long at all. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it such that the mother produces the milk herself. And how unique this is, that not every woman will produce milk. Not every woman will produce milk. You may have thought that this is something which Allah Ta'ala has created within the body of a female, naturally that is there. But no, that isn't the case. It is only when she experiences and she goes through pregnancy, that's when this is created, and this part of her body at this age already develops, where it is able to produce milk for her child. Later on, once she passes that, then she isn't able to produce milk at all. It is just during that process that she is able to produce. And the more demand there is from the child, the more the production. The more demand, the more the production. And if the demand stops and it comes down to bottled milk, then that production also automatically comes to an end as well. This is the great qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yes, the mother herself is in need of her nourishment to be able to produce milk and good milk. But even if she is malnourished, to an extent some milk will at least be produced for the child to be able to sort of feed on. So this is the system that Allah Ta'ala has created and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in place. Not that Allah Ta'ala just created the child comes into this world and that's it now, there is nothing in place. And the parents or the mother now has to make everything happen for that child. Allah Ta'ala has put an entire structure in place. Then this child that develops. From a weakling, min du'fin, that child then becomes a strong individual. The child who is then now in their youth and they come into their teenage and those years and early and their 20s and 30s and so. How this weak child now becomes one that is in quwwah, his great strength. Either then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps that child till that age and then the child departs from this world or that person departs from this world. Or awalam nu'ammirkum. Or now that person comes into old age. 40 is al-shabab, youth, and then a person comes further on and they come into the 50s onwards. And that is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that وَمَن نُعَمِّرْكُمْ نُنَكِّسْهُ فِي الْخَلْقِ. That person doesn't continue to develop and become stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, and in old age you continue to become strong. Then those in the 90s and 100s will be the most strong. strongest of people. No, but rather in case of the older you become, you go back again. That then what happens is that all the quwwah that a person had, the strength, that starts to diminish. Strength, the physical strength diminishes. The physical upright structure, changes come within that. And a person's most depending, those organs a person greatly depends upon, which are the eyes and ears. A great difference come about and weakness come about in these two things as well. Because whether you are physically strong or weak, you depend much more on what your eyes, to see if things around you and to be able to communicate and hear. But these are those things that in old age, these also become weak. When a person becomes old, they can't see properly. When they become old, they can't hear properly now. They need hearing aid, or people need to speak loud with them. These things start to diminish. To that extent that they now, the same things which they used to rely on are those which now are not so reliable to them. Because they are seeing, but they may see, but don't see correctly, recognize somebody correctly. Or in the case of they may hear wrong. So many elderly people, they say, oh no, I thought I heard this. I thought I heard this. So they hear differently as well. And an Arab poet in his poetry mentions as well the meaning and of which is that when a person becomes old, then a person's beloved things become most unbeloved as well. Those which a person liked, now they become disliked. They become disturbed by things that they used to enjoy. They used to enjoy certain things, now in old age they become disturbed by that. How opposite it's become. And even that which was telling the truth now speaks a lie as well. Meaning that now they lose their gazes, or the gaze is not correctly. They're not seeing correctly as well. Or something is the way it is, but they will refute that. Somebody will say, no, it is your grandson, Ahmad or Ashraf. No, I don't think it is. So their eyes will lie to them. They hear a voice and they say, no, it is Ahmad's voice. No, it doesn't sound like Ahmad. Or people very close, they'll see them, but they won't be able to recognize them. And these are the type of things that happen. So many people in old age, when they're old, you meet, even those people who used to know you well, who used to always recognize you, and now a time comes in old age, came to teach you, and that's it. How are you? They don't know who you are. And because they know you, they don't recognize, all they can see is, hello, how are you? And you ask them, have you recognized me? Sorry, they haven't recognized, they don't recognize. And these are the same people who did recognize you, who knew you and you knew very well. Never mind strangers, even within families as well. There may be parents, elderly parents, sometimes Alzheimer's and other illnesses, or just old age is such that they might even forget the names of their own children. And if they've got many grandchildren, then they forget the names of their grandchildren as well. They don't even remember that they are their grandchildren. So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, that nunakkisu fil khalq, that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this change, that as you advance in age, everything else will diminish in structure. And then on that Allah ta'ala says, أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ, do they not understand? Understand what? That this entire process of insan, this is a lesson to us of what the haqiqat of this world is. That everything that is here now is going to diminish. Nothing is going to remain the way it is. Just the way a person diminishes, age and your life diminishes, this worldly life is also going to diminish. And a person who reaches a peak of strength now goes into weakness, just the way they were when they were born. Elderly people now need what? That's the way the child needs somebody to hold their hand to walk. Now in old age as well, they need somebody's hand to walk. The child needs somebody to feed them. In old age, they need somebody to feed them. To the extent, and Allah Ta'ala says, us from this, and if we do have elderly relatives as well, that some become so in need of other people that they can't even see to their own general needs as well. And when it comes to matters with regards to relieving themselves, istinja and basic things, they become dependent on other people. Just the way the child, when he's born, is dependent on the parents until it is nappy trained and toilet trained. To that extent that a child uses nappies. And when a person becomes old in old age, they have to also use nappies. Look at how from where to where a person becomes. But in this as well, when Allah Ta'ala says that أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ, that in this is also a great wisdom for mankind. So that mankind takes heed from this. And that mankind learns this lesson as well, that Allah Ta'ala is a being who has caused these changes in people, can certainly bring back to life as well. When he can bring this reverse change in the person, that when a person is now gone to that weakness to the extent that they have now died, to bring them back to life, this is also in the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in this process of Allah subhanahu of old age and aging is also a lesson for who? It is a lesson in it for the youth. Now those who are in their youth, who do not value that strength that Allah Ta'ala has given them, the youth that Allah Ta'ala has given them, they should take lesson from this as well. That we are not always going to remain so young, and we're not going to always remain so capable. Old age is going to come, and that's when it's going to become so difficult. This yesterday, I was parked outside in Masjid, and there was one musalli, and this musalli who is old now, and a musalli who is in Savile Town where we've grown up, so you know the people, you've seen them, and you go there, you see how people have aged, people who used to see who our parents age, how our parents have aged, how they have aged as well. So this individual, how he was hobbling and he was struggling to walk, but he was going back home from after Salah. And seeing that one was a reminder that this person wasn't always like this, but from what they have become. But also the fact that even then, at least this person, despite the fact that they're struggling, they've still come to the masjid. They're struggling, but they've still come to the masjid. And then you're just pondering over that unfortunately we who are young and the youth of today, who find it a great struggle to get to the masjid when they are so fit and healthy. And when we fit and healthy and we find it such a struggle to get to the masjid, can you really expect that when this fit and healthy young man can't get to the masjid, that when he reaches this state or this age, is he even going to be bothered to go to the masjid? He's not going to go to the masjid at all. Now he's reached a point where he's struggling to get to the masjid. And he's even got an uzr now, you can say, an excuse not to go to the masjid. And when we are so young and we have all the strength, we're looking for excuses. Any excuse not to go to the masjid. A slight strain in the muscle or a bit of a toe ache. That's it, I need to put my foot up. Can't go to the masjid. Isn't it? Take the chair out, isn't it? Sit on the chair. That is still good that they even got to the masjid to sit on the chair. Then those who just can't get off the chair at home, the sofas and the chairs at home to get to the masjid chair. So any excuse not to get to the masjid. And these are those people who have an excuse to stay at home, but they're still getting to the masjid, good habits. So this is a time wherein, now mentioned that this type of individual may struggle. They may be able to get to the masjid for all their salat. Or it might be a case of, because it's so difficult, they can only go for a couple of salat to the masjid. And the rest is a struggle for them, they can't do. So whilst Allah Ta'ala has given us that youth, and Allah Ta'ala has given us the strength, then we should be utilizing it in order to try and accomplish and achieve as much as possible in the form of the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until we reach that age wherein now it becomes difficult for us to be able to do so. So this in that age, then if things are sort of cut down or curtailed, or we are unable to do the ibadat in the manner that we want to, at least a person knows that when they had that opportunity, when they had the youth, they were able to do it. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of regrets later on. So every youth, when they look at the elders in the masjid, or the elders within the home, or the elders around themselves, need to take lesson from those elders that they are our future. They are our future. If they are old, if they are annoying to us, and if they are disturbing us, and if they are acting the way they are behaving the way they are our future. When we're going to become old, the same traits and the same characteristics are going to come into us as well. They are a lesson to us. And also, in the other form as well, that where a person may in the young age and the youth have a lot of pride and arrogance as well. A lot of boast that, look, I am so handsome and I am so beautiful. And I have so good looks and I have this abilities and those abilities. All this charm and all these looks, they are also not going to remain at all. These are going to go as well. All the elderly people you look at, they were not born that way, were they? With all the wrinkles and the bend, the back as well. They were all youthful, they were all beautiful as well. All the Buddhists in the streets, they were never always born Buddhists, isn't it? They had their days as well. They had their prime as well. When people would be looking at them, when they were the center stage, you can say. I mean, they were the center of attraction. But now all that beauty has gone. Husn fani ne di mujhe ye sabak, surat dil lagane ke qabil nahi. Diminishing beauty has given me this lesson that beauty is not something to fall upon. Why? Because that beauty is not going to remain forever. If it is this beauty of ours that is misleading us, it is drawing us towards the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then remember that this beauty is not going to last all the time. And all those who are supporters and fans and those who are appreciating our beauty, they are appreciating our beauty now. They are only there because of that beauty that we have. But that beauty isn't going to remain later on, isn't it? When the youth will, let's take a selfie together. And then that same 16, 18, 20-year-old, when she now becomes 80 and you see her in the streets, 80-year-old, you can say, let's selfie together, isn't it? There is a case of, you can't even hold the phone together, isn't it? You don't know what's happening there. Nobody's going to be wanting to take a selfie at that time with an 80-year-old, 70, 60-year-old even. So this is the difference that comes about. And for those 50, 60-year-olds who still think that they're 20, 30-year-olds, isn't it? So many of our mothers and sisters. They think that they're the same age as their daughters. And they want to dress the same as their daughters as well. That wasn't the case before. They knew their age and they would dress according to their age as well. And now they dress in such a manner that they think that they're their daughter's age. And they want to be very similar to them. They feel they're missing out and they want to dress like their daughters. The daughter's dressing wrong and they're dressing wrong as well. And they need to understand as well, look, you're flaking now. The paint is peeling off. Those type of, the style of dressing, these things, it doesn't match even. It doesn't suit you. Those days are gone now. Those days are gone now. And accept the fact that, look, this is where you are in life. And these changes are going to come. And that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning here. That وَمَن نُعَمِّرْهُ نُنَكِّسُ فِي الْخَلْقِ أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ. So do you not take heed from this? Do they not understand and do they not accept this type of change that's going to come? And do they not understand that this is the nature of dunya, this is the nature of this world? Everybody has gone through it. And as I mentioned to you, especially for those who Allah Ta'ala has given them young age and they're still in their youth and that, to appreciate it, to value it, and achieve and accomplish as much as possible before it becomes too late. Further, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions with regards to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَمَا عَلَّمْنَاهُ الشِّعْرَ وَمَا يَنبَغِي لَإِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا ذِكْرٌ وَقُرْآنٌ مُبِينٌ. Now Hazrat Rahmatullah Ali's ashar, जिसका नक्शा था कल जवानी का, आज लकब है उसका नाना नानी का। कैसा देखा था हो गए कैसे, क्या भरोसा है इस जवानी का। That जिसका नक्शा था कल जवानी का, that person who was a youth, the structure was one of youthful, आज लकब है उसका नाना नानी का. Now somebody is a nana nani, grandparents. So they were young once upon a time, now they are old now. So जिसका नक्शा था कल जवानी का, आज लकब उनका नाना नानी का. कैसा देखा था हो गए कैसे, क्या भरोसा है इस जवानी का. How you once saw them and now how they become. So there's nothing to rely. You can't rely on this youth because the youth is not going to remain. It's deceptive. It's there and then it isn't there. कमर झुक के मिसले कमानी हुआ, कोई दादा हुआ कोई दादी हुई. कमर झुक के मिसले कमानी हुई. The person was upright the whole time. And now with old age what happens is they start leaning and the back becomes like the bow of an arrow. And that person becomes, and this is the change that comes. It's a natural change that comes about in what? In the physical body of an individual, just away from that child, that weakling child, that change that came about into that power and strength. And then this weakness comes about. Further Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا عَلَّمْنَاهُ الشِّعْرَ وَمَا يَنْبَغِي لَهُ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا ذِكْرٌ وَقُرْآنٌ مُبِينٌ. Addressing the munafiqeen, Allah ta'ala says that وَمَا عَلَّمْنَاهُ الشِّعْرَ. With regards to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that we do not teach him poetry. And وَمَا يَنْبَغِي لَهُ, nor is it befitting for Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to be indulging himself in reciting poetry. إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا ذِكْرٌ وَقُرْآنٌ مُبِينٌ. This is advice in the clear Qur'an. In what this is nothing but dhikr from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning advice. Wa Qur'anun mubin, and this is the Qur'an which is clear. Because the munafiqeen would say what? The mushrikeen would say what? That the Qur'an is what? Shair. That Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is a poet. Wa ma huwa bi shair. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is not a poet. And Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam regarding him, Allah ta'ala says, wa ma yanbaghi lahu. And neither is it befitting for Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to be wasting time with poetry. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was never a poet. He never indulged in it. So how can you say that the Quran is also poetry? One question may arise is that how can you say this? That the Arabs who were very fond of poetry, that the men, women, young, old, they all knew what poetry was, because that is something that Allah granted, a skill that they were granted with. They all knew what poetry is. And when they knew what poetry is, how could they claim that the Quran or that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a poet? Because if those who know poetry would read the Quran and know that this is not poetry at all. So here, it's not necessary that it means poetry in the literal form of something that is in rhyming, with stanzas and rhymes in that. But a poetry is what? Poetry is something which an individual or the poet conjures up from his imagination. Meaning words that he conjures up from his imagination. A poet may describe a person, a building, a tree, a landscape, whatever. So they now bring some words from themselves to describe that. And then those words, whether they rhyme or do not rhyme. So it means in that form that these are not words that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has from his own imagination made up. Why? Because Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is not a shair, he is not a poet. And not only that, وَمَا يَنْبَغِي لَهُ. Hence Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was never a poet. And there are various occasions wherein Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam even mentioned poetry, but Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam either left certain parts out or Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam made an error in the poetry. But because Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was never a poet. And there were the odd occasions wherein Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned something and it coincidentally happened that it rhymed. And that did not make Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam a poet. Like anybody, you can say certain words and it matches or it rhymes, doesn't automatically make that person into a poet now. So in this way, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wasn't. Yes, there were occasions wherein Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the rare occasions wherein Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam may have quoted another poet. Aside from that, it isn't something that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was very involved in. Aside from that, with regard to the ahkam and the masail of poetry, we have covered that in Surah Shu'ara as well. In huwa illa dhikrun wa Qur'anun mubin. The Quran is pure advice and a clear Quran. لِيُنذِرَ مَنْ كَانَ حَيًّا وَيَحِقَّ الْقَوْلُ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ. And the purpose of it is لِيُنذِرَ, to warn who? مَنْ كَانَ حَيًّا, to warn him who is living, and in order to do what? وَيَحِقَّ الْقَوْلُ, and to establish the qawl, meaning the proof, عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ, upon the kafirin. Meaning to prove that their beliefs are incorrect, and to warn those who are living, because you can't warn now those who are dead, so it is warning to those who are living. أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا أَنَّا خَلَقْنَا لَهُمْ. And then Allah Ta'ala again reminds insan of the various other bounties of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the qudrat of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, that Allah Ta'ala says, أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا, do they not see? أَنَّا خَلَقْنَا لَهُمْ مِمَّا عَمِلَتْ أَيْدِينَا, do they not see that from our hands' work, that we have created an aman, that we have created livestock for them, laha malikun, for them, and they are its masters. That Allah Ta'ala says that, have you not seen that which we have created for them from our own hand, meaning from the qudrat of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And one example of those things that Allah Ta'ala has created is an'am, animals. And fahum laha malikun, and they are its masters, meaning Allah Ta'ala has created animals, and Allah Ta'ala has made insan the owners of those animals in such a manner that وَذَلَّلْنَاهَ لَهُمْ فَمِنْهَا رَكُوبُهُمْ and وَمِنْهَا يَأْكُلُونَ وَلَوْ فِيهَا مَنَافِعُ وَمَشَارِبُ أَفَلَا يَشْكُرُونَ. That we have placed them, وَذَلَّلْنَا لَهُمْ, that we have lowered them for them, meaning we have made them subservient to them, meaning that they have been subdued to mankind. How? فَمِنْهَا رَكُوبُهُمْ, some of them are such that a means of transport, that they mount them, وَمِنْهَا يَأْكُلُونَ, and some they eat from them. So not all animals are eaten, some are eaten, some are become rukubuhum, some become what? Means of conveyance for insan. And وَلَهُمْ فِيهَا مَنَافِعُ, and then from these there are many other benefits as well, and وَمَشَارِبْ, and drinks. أَفَلَا يَشْكُرُونَ, are they not grateful to these bounties of Allah Ta'ala? So Allah Ta'ala is saying that مِمَّا عَمْلَتْ أَيْدِينَا, and this an'am is one example of all those things around us. There's so many machinery itself is what? It is those components and parts that insan has been able to put together, that insan is able to control with his own hands. They are so easy to, because there is no life in it. But here Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has made such that animals. For one person to control his own child becomes so difficult, isn't it? You can't control your own child. You have to grab hold of their hands and they're running here and there. But just imagine here. That the moment you put the reins over an animal, it becomes subservient to mankind. Animal is animal, he's got his own choice. And like a sugar, they don't go to strike as well. Isn't it? They say, no, that's it, no, we're not giving milk today. No, that's it, we're not going to. You can't ride us today. We're not going to take you here and there. We're not going to work today. We want more food. Otherwise, we're going to stop giving eggs. We're going to stop laying eggs. We're going to stop doing this and going to stop giving that. But Allah has made it such that it is under the control of mankind. To that extent, that a huge animal like a camel, and a camel which is wild as well, when a camel loses it, it loses its soul. A very wild animal when it becomes wild. But a huge animal as a camel, a small child can also hold the reins and control that animal. To that extent, if there is a whole train of camels as well, you'll just have one child with the reins of the first one, and he'll be pulling the reins and pulling the entire train of camels with him. This is how Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has created these livestock and made insan the masters over them. And it's not the opposite. It's not the opposite, that they control us. Imagine how difficult that would be then, isn't it? And how stubborn they would become and what not would happen then. Things would not function the way it is. So this is another great qudrat of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And the other is that how Allah Ta'ala says that أَلَمْ يَرُوا أَنَّا خَلَقْنَا لَهُمْ مِمَّا عَمَلَتْ أَيْدِينَا أَنْعَامًا فَهُمْ لَهَا مَالِكُونَ. that they have become the masters, meaning Malik means owners of it. Which shows that whatever we possess and whatever we become masters over, meaning owners over, this is from the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not insan's own doings. Insan will strive and insan will try. But at the end of the day, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who makes that insan, that person, the owner of such a factory, for example, such a plant, such a building, such an industry and such a business. These are all from what? From the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made possible for that person to become an owner over. If it wasn't for that, then insan by his own accord would not become a malik, an owner of even a small particle of dust even. So this is the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَذَلَّلْنَاهَا لَهُمْ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made these animals to the service of insan. فَمِنْهَا رَكُوبُهُمْ وَمِنْهَا يَأْكُلُونَ. So either there are those by whom a person uses transport when they need to, and when there is a need now, then you can always sacrifice that animal. And you can eat from the meat of it. And وَلَهُمْ فِيهَا مَنَافِعُ. There's so many other benefits as well, from the wool as well, from the fat as well. And وَمَشَارِبْ. Then you have the milk of these animals. So there is a number of benefits that these animals will give insan, and they themselves will become a means of what? Supply, food chain for insan. But Allah says, أَفَلَا يَشْكُرُونَ. Are they not grateful? Meaning for these bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these are all these things around us. These are the great bounties of Allah ta'ala. We sit in our conveyances and we're able to switch it on and we're able to comfortably get from one place to another place. This is what the bounty of Allah ta'ala. That Allah ta'ala has created such means of transport for us, which after all is under our minds. You sit in the car and your car says, no, I'm stubborn today, I'm not taking. That's it. Time to park me up in the garage now, I'm not taking now. Tomorrow morning now. And you need to go somewhere. Or is a case of you indicating right and you're turning right where it's taking you left. They don't have a mind of their own. It'll go exactly where you want. That's the way that animal as well. The moment the reins are on, then you control it right or left. And everything here as well. These are what? The qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَاتَّخَذُوا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ آلِهَةً لَعَلَّهُمْ يُنصَرُونَ. But despite all of this, Allah ta'ala says, they adopt various deities min dunillahi besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And why they do that is لَعَلَّهُمْ يُنصَرُونَ. So that they may be assisted. Meaning those who take these various other deities, they take these deities and so many deities as well, expecting what and hoping that in the hereafter these deities are what going to assist them and help them. So they think to themselves, the more deities we have, the more help you're going to have in the hereafter. But Allah Ta'ala says, لَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ نَصْرَهُمْ. How are they going to help them? Do they not even realize that these deities themselves, لَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ نَصْرَهُمْ, are unable to help themselves? They can't even help themselves, isn't it? Even if a fly sits on it, they can't even remove that fly. So if they can't even remove a fly from itself, how are they going to remove any musibat upon an insan? So لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون. But rather instead, they will be a jundun, means an army against them. وهم لهم جند محضرون, against them. There's two tafsirs here. One tafsir here is وَهُمْ لَهُمْ جُنْدٌ مُهْذَرُونَ, meaning that rather is a case of the followers will become the army to help the deities. That the deities are so helpless that their own followers are the ones who will support it. Somebody deities there and some people go on a rampage and they say, look, we're going to start smashing and we're going to destroy your idols. Alhamdulillah, Muslims, they don't do these type of things. And Muslims are not supposed to do these type of things. Others burn the Qur'an, Muslims don't burn any religious books. They do not desecrate it. They do not show any disrespect. And that is the command of the Quran as well. So, a mob come and attack. Well, who's going to protect those idols? So their worshippers are those who are going to become an army to protect their idols. So when they themselves are protecting their idols, who's going to protect them? And how can the idols then protect them? So that is one of the tafsirs, وَهُمْ لَهُمْ جُنْدٌ مُهْضَرُونَ. And the other is, as Hasan Basri Qatada rahimahullah, and that which is here as well, means that they, meaning rather they will be an army against them, meaning that the same idols and the many idols that they have made and they worship here in this world, on the day of Qiyamah, they will then gather together as an army to testify against them. That yes, these are those who worshipped us. That when we told them, why did you do shirk? They said, no, we didn't do shirk. The idols will give testimony, yes, you did do shirk. You are the ones who made us your deity. We didn't tell you to worship us. We never told you to worship us. We couldn't speak. We couldn't speak anyway that we tell you to worship us. So, it's your own fault that you are the one who worshipped us. We didn't tell you to put these flowers on us and put some milk there, put some cheese there, and put some other food there, mitai and money and Allah knows what else. We didn't say for you to do all these type of things. So the deities themselves will congregate and they will become an army against their followers. That is the one tafsir. Both tafsir in its form is correct, whichever it is both are exactly the same. Their followers will have to assist them when that need comes, and on the day of Qiyamah the same deities will become and give testimony against them. Allah Ta'ala save us from such type of shirk and kufr as well. And then Allah Ta'ala enable us to realize and recognize the qudrat of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. All weekly programs from